Welcome to Fixing Bad Writing, the show where I take a crap, an awful story written by AI and put a human spin on it to try and make it something that's at least a little bit readable. Think of it like a quick writing exercise where we have to edit a story and try and salvage the good bits and make it the best we possibly can, which is easier said than done with these crappy stories. I encourage you to have a go yourself. I've included the story that we're going to work on in this episode in the description. Have a little rewrite, have a little edit, play around with it, and feel free to post your own version in the comments. In the last episode, we looked at high fantasy. Now, this is a genre I am very familiar with. I write a lot of high fantasy and dark fantasy, and it was very much a comfort zone starter. But today, I'm upping the ante. I'm going to make things interesting. We're going to look at Romantasy. Now, this is a genre that is absolutely booming at the moment. So many people are doing amazing things, writing all these different stories, taking classic romance tropes and plots and putting a really cool fantasy spin on it. Now, I've never written Romantasy. It's very much a challenge to me, this one. And that's the point of this series, is to try and write all different types of genres. So we're going to specifically look at a story that focuses on the trope enemies to lovers, because I know a lot of people like that one. So here we are, let's get into it. Just like last time, I'm using ChatGPT. I've got a little prompt thing going on here. So I'll read the prompt aloud. It's very much the same as last time. I want you to write for me a one-paragraph story, written very poorly. It does carry a basic structure that can be worked on, maximum of 200 words. Line-to-line writing should be poor, bordering on comical because it keeps things a bit interesting. And like I said, we're going to be writing a romantasy story with the main trope being enemies to lovers. So let's see what ChatGPT throws up for us. So we have a story generated by ChatGPT. I've got it now in the Google Doc, ready for the red pen. And this is the story. I'll read it out. Princess Lyra hated Prince Daxon because he was very handsome in a very annoying way, and also because he had stolen her magic sword during the Battle of Very Big Feelings. She chased him through the dark forest, which was dark and had trees in it, shouting, "Give it back, you arrogant man with cheekbones." Daxon laughed in a rude but attractive manner and said, "Make me, Moon Witch." This made Lyra even angrier, especially because nobody had ever called her Moon Witch before, and she quite liked it. Then a dragon appeared, as dragons often do when people are busy arguing romantically. Daxon tried to fight it, but fell over a root, so Lyra saved him with a spell that made sparkly fire come out of her hands. He looked at her like she was the sunrise, but with more danger. "You saved me," he said. "Sadly," she replied. Then they hid in a cave where it was cold, so they had to sit close for survival. By morning, they were still enemies, but now with kissing probably happening soon. So, first thoughts on the story then. It's, I don't really feel like it's a complete story. I feel like it's part of a story because the ending's only kind of hinting at what's to come. But there's definitely the moments here where the enemies become at least on the path to lovers. So it's quite interesting. So we obviously have got two characters. We've got Princess Lyra and Prince Dixon. Very handsome in a very annoying way. Also because he'd stolen a magic sword. And so Lyra's quite an interesting character because she has magic powers and we can play on that. Daxon seems a bit fearful of her because of that reason. So something again we could play on. We also have the sudden appearance of a dragon. Gives Daxon a chance to prove himself, but ends up showing Lyra to be the more powerful and competent one. And also I quite like that sassy response at the end. But then they hid in the cave, and then everything starts to change. And this is quite... this is obviously the most important part of the story, but it's brushed upon very quickly, especially for Romantasy, I imagine. So like I say, I've never written Romantasy before. But there are key things to keep in mind, I imagine. If you're watching this and you write Romantasy, your mind's probably racing, whereas mine's going at a bit of a donkey's pace at the minute. Trying to think of the main point. So it's characters. We've got the enemies, the lovers thing to keep us a bit structured. So we need a reason. We've got a reason in the sense of the magic sword and the battle of very big feelings. So we need to think about what that could be. The biggest problem I've got is the sequence of events at the start, because she already hates him, but then she's already chasing him. So unless we do this at the immediate aftermath of the battle, this could be quite interesting. So let's have a little work through. What was the point in the story? So obviously, I'm just going to write enemies to lovers down. Enemies to lovers. So the point of the story, I imagine it's from Lyra's perspective, since she seems to be the central character. At the beginning, she wants to get a sword back. Lost her sword during a battle. Wants it back. Chasing him. So seems to be what she wants more than anything at the moment. But lots of references to attractiveness, handsome. So I think as well as wanting a sword, she's looking for something in life. Looking for love in life, let's just say. For love in life as well. I wonder what the battle of very big feelings is. Because it seems it could be like a dating, like a speed dating event for princes and princesses. I don't feel like it should be like a bloody battle, because that's quite hard to go for. Then the dragon appears and ups the ante a touch. Yes. I feel like this is a fantastical dating event for single nobles, let's say. Like a ball. Almost like a bit of a Bridgerton style ball. Makes more sense for what's going on at the start, and then you've got this chase, and then all of a sudden it gets a bit hairy with the dragon. One of the main things, I mean, I'm looking here for a theme, a premise, but opposites attract. Not really. Not really. I feel like I've got Lyra. Gone straight into Lyra. And with romance stories, I feel like the characters are the main point of them. What they get up to, what the conflicts are in their own lives, that is the story. That's the point of it, really. So we could say, obviously, she's looking for love in her life, and that's why she's gone to the battle of very big feelings. Maybe, obviously, being a bit of a witch, she feels a bit of an outsider. Daxon, is it? Daxon embarrasses her and takes her sword, chases him. Yeah. And that leads to this scene. Like, why does she have a sword? Embarrasses her for carrying the sword in the first place. It is personal, like deep attachment to her. Someone very close to her. Obviously, you go with father, mother, grandparents, something like that. But if you're trying to make it a bit more interesting, a bit more romantic, we could make it like it would belong to someone she loved, like someone who was killed. Interesting. Okay. Stories coming together. Obviously, if you're having a go at this yourself, you could take a completely different way. And we've got, obviously, with this battle of very big feelings. This could be a genuine battle, but depends which way you want to take it. Conflict. Let's crack on with conflict, and we'll go back. It's like the first time we did this, and I ended up coming back to question one. Sometimes you got to feel your way through, and then work out what it's actually about as things are clearer. Conflict. There's a lot of conflict in the story in terms of we've got the battle, dating night. Got social anxieties, and for being a witch and a bit of an outsider. The classic, the freaky one, the freaky character. Then we have the stealing of the sword. Then the dragon appears. Then far from home, unable to get home. We could say the weather turns. Oh shit. Say the weather turns and forces down into the cave. Cold, hungry, they're forced closer. There's your story, kind of. Obviously, the incident of the dragon is a dragon incident bonded them together on some level, though they still have differences. And obviously, if you want the story to remain interesting, they can't just resolve all these differences here, but they need to find some kind of common ground, I feel. Could be some kind of gesture, because we don't have a lot of words. I'm trying to do this in 200 words. Let's have a little look at setting. So the main setting for the story is the Dark Forest, because the battle thing comes before. Dark, and it had trees in it, apparently. That's it, isn't it? And the cave. Moon Witch. I wonder what the deal is with the Moon Witch then. Maybe that's part of the conflict. Oh my god. It's all coming together. Powers only surface when the moon is full. Something like that. And tonight is a full moon. Maybe powers grow so strong during full moon they become predictable. She is worried she won't be able to constrain or hide. More conflict there. Unpredictability of her powers on a full moon. Also, with it being a full moon, lit up by a full moon, which prompts Daxon to call her a moon witch in the first place. Cool, mate. Right, we're coming together. Blind editing, we'll get there. Still haven't got anything for one. I think I actually have something here. Point to this little story, and the kind of vibe is that Lyra's worried about being herself. But when she is herself and she reveals her own powers, she's admired for it, respected for it. So maybe we can go for along them lines. Something like that. I mean, obviously need to refine them, but I've got the general vibe. Plenty conflict. The characters down. We've defined a few of the vagaries of the original story, given it a bit of a structure. Is it romantic? The romance is at the end, really. Are the enemies at the start? Yeah, I'd say they would. They very much are enemies. But at the end, they're on the way to becoming lovers. So, yeah, I suppose it does work. If you're a romantasy expert watching this, then you may disagree about the romance level. You certainly may disagree about the spice level. Not spicy enough. Maybe we need to get the dragon to rip off the guy's shirt or something. Topless Daxon sprinting through the forest. Alright, let's have a look at the lines that we can salvage. This was really hard in the last effort because it was all so bad. So let's just have a read through and see what we like. We can obviously keep little things like this. Stuff like this. Dark and had trees in it will definitely be getting chucked on the bonfire. That dialogue's questionable. Give it back, you arrogant man with cheekbones. Daxon laughed in a rude but attractive manner. How do you laugh like that? What would that laugh sound like? Ha 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 ha. Rude but attractive. She's angry. I don't know. That's a strange one. Make me Moon Witch. Let's keep that. I like that. Lara, even angrier. Nobody had ever called her a Moon Witch before. She quite liked it. Ooh. Then the dragon appeared, as dragons often do. That's a good line. Daxon tried to fight it, but fell over a root. Lara saved him with a spell that made sparkly fire come out of her hands. Potentially. If you watch the first episode, I do try and save. Like I said, I do try and save as much as I can. When I'm editing people's things, obviously, it's never usually this bad, but you always try and save what you can and work around it. Obviously, less gives you less to do as an editor if you can keep as much as you can and just improve it. But sometimes you just have to rewrite. He looked at her like she was the sunrise, but with more danger. I don't think that's going to work. You saved me, he said. Sadly, she replied. It's quite funny. Let us keep that hid in the cave for survival reasons only. By morning they were still enemies, but now with kissing probably happening soon. Let's not keep that. So there's a little bit we can keep. And we are now approaching the part of the video where I go off and have a write. See what we can make of this really, really strange story. Bear with me. Be kind. Remember, and don't write romantasy. Oh, fuck it. Let's give it a go. Companion here. Help me with the story. It's not going that well. It's nearly done though. Just getting up to the main romantic scene. So we shall see how it goes. Right, I have had an attempt at this story. It was interesting, to say the least. It's not something I write very often. Even like high fantasy stories that I write, I don't tend to include a lot of romance. And I don't know why that is, because I'm not averse to it. I actually really enjoy a rom-com. But there's just never really, I think the themes I tend to focus on are a bit heavy going, and there never really is space within that for romance. Or maybe romance just doesn't feel that important to the characters for the kind of story that I'm telling. So anyway, this was nice to do something a little bit different. I won't go over the notes again because we've kind of done it. But what I'll do is I'll read out my attempt. I guess I would say please be kind because this is the first draft. I haven't even read back over it. I've just bashed it out. It's 500 words, which I apologise for in advance because it was meant to be 200. The original was 180. And I've gone quite far over. But I wanted to get the key bits of conflict in. And I added a lot more dialogue because because it's a romance, and I kind of feel like there needs to be a little bit of dialogue for that romantic spark to kick into being. Anyway, let me read it and then we'll discuss what I did. Lara charged through the dark forest, eyes locked on the back of Daxon's head and his flowing locks. He glanced over his shoulder, handsome, high cheekbone face fixed in a grin that in another time she'd have admired. Now it sparked a wave of anger that surged her on, but it was hard to run in her gown. The battle of very big feelings was a long way behind them now, but she'd rather spend a night retching than go back to that ball for single nobles. She hurried on, reaching a break in the looming trees. Daxon turned to face her, the full moon shining down above him. "Give it back, you arrogant bastard," she said, chest burning from all the running. "Make me Moon Witch," he sneered, pointing the sword at her. Nobody's called me that before, she said, and to her surprise, she liked the sound of it rolling off his tongue. The air rushed above them, long grass and branches shaking and soughing. The moon disappeared for a heartbeat, and then the ground shook, enough to send them both to the floor. Daxon helped her to her feet. Before them, a red dragon reared its long neck, glaring down with glowing eyes. "My lady, may I borrow your sword?" Daxon said, though she couldn't hear much bravery in his shaky voice. "Use it well, my lord." He nodded and ran at the beast, only to take 2 steps and trip over a root, banging his head and falling still. The dragon looked at Lyra, and she dove into a spell, lips chanting quickly. Sparkly fire came out of her hands and struck the dragon in the chest. It screamed, beat its wings, and took to the sky, Lyra continuing the spell to make sure it had long gone. Then she turned to the still form of Daxon. Holding her hand under his nose, she found him still breathing, despite the blood flowing from a cut to his forehead. She touched his cheek gently, and his eyes stuttered open. He jolted forward, but she held him back. "It's gone," she said. "How?" "It's a magic sword, remember? That's why I got so angry you stole it. It belonged to someone very dear to me." "I'm sorry," he said, grimacing and holding a hand to his head. A heavy raindrop landed on her cheek, another on her hand. "Let's find somewhere to rest tonight," she said, helping him to his feet. Before long the clouds unleashed a torrent that soaked them through, but amid the driving rain Daxon spotted a cave. Shivering, Lyra hugged herself, but she was glad to be free of the rain. Daxon saw her shaking. "We need to get dry, otherwise we'll catch our death," he said. He unshouldered his cloak and pulled off his shirt, which stuck to his muscular frame. "Want me to help you out of your gown?" he asked, taking a step closer. Heat burned in her cheeks. She bit her lip, nodded, and turned around, enjoying his gentle hands unfasten her gown. A few spelling mistakes and whatnot there, but I think the main aim was achieved in the sense that it's gone from a very bad relationship, calling him an arrogant bastard, and then she's enjoying the little intimate moment at the end. I didn't really want to write much more beyond that because I think it would have got a bit too spicy, let's say. But let's just get the notes next to it so we can analyse a little bit of what we've done. So the main things we wanted to get across when we were looking at the notes. I always start with conflict because I like the conflict. So we've got a little bit. It's probably the way it's being revealed. I mean, there's different ways to do this, but I don't like to make things too obvious, particularly with world building. It has to feel natural to the characters. So if you all of a sudden start explaining things like they were running away from this very fancy ball for nobles, I mean, I kind of say that anyway, but I try and do it in a more organic way. Probably needs work though. I will agree. I don't think that's perfect, but I'm trying to do it in a more organic way. Like for example, just editing what I've done. I could say she hurried on. The battle of the very thing is a long way behind them, and then yeah. So that's how I would edit that to make that sentence relevant to what is actually happening. So she's running away and she doesn't care that she's getting further and further away from the battle of very big feelings. Or we could even add this in, as she called it herself. So let me show you what I'm talking about. See, what I love about editing is it's like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, a literary jigsaw puzzle. And you're just moving things around and adding little bits in here. So it's a bit more of a natural inclusion, and that's what I feel like world building should be. It's very easy to go and spend years building the world, getting all the details together that you think you need. But honestly, if you don't know the story that you're going to tell, most of that stuff you're never going to use. So just work out the story, tell the story, write the story. Even in your first draft, you don't even have to go into very great detail. Just you can even leave notes for yourself to say, all right, this is a bit where I can actually expand the world. Let's see what foods I can introduce. And then there's a tavern scene, for example. And then that way you write in a much more economical and efficient way. Something's quite interesting. So we've got like moving on through the story. We've got the moon, witch, and we've also obviously introduced the full moon. Introduced a connection with Daxon and the full moon above him. Him accusing her of being a moon witch. And then her being able to do the spell. And obviously, it could be a bit more explicit about the link, but don't like to make it too easy for people. I put this in, but really it should be, she could take the sword off him earlier and then give it back to him. I suppose that would be a bit more. But I think it could be it's almost the kind of thing like a noble would say, like because he's like a noble lord. He's kind of expected to be brave and chivalrous in this moment, and I think it was quite kind of a thing to say, a suitable thing to say. And I'm saying that suggesting that they're of noble birth. I'm not explicitly saying that prince and princess, but the way they talk, the way they behave, the fact that they've been at this ball, you kind of get a suggestion of who they are, the status. Kept this in, falling over, but I'd developed it to knock him out of the equation completely. And then straight into the spell. Kept all that the same, really, as the original story. Just added a bit more detail. And then this, I feel, is the moment where things change. Like, he's not seeing her do the magic, so she's no longer like worried about that side of things, but he's obviously going to feel differently about her because he's just saved him from a dragon. And this is a bit of a turning point, and also the showing of a bit more emotion, a bit more affection, like touching of the cheek, helping to her feet, and then it kind of paves the way for something a little bit more towards the end. And yeah, like I say, I'm not very good at writing romance, I don't think. But I thought this was quite a natural, organic way for them to get closer. Yeah, there you go. Romantasy, enemies to lovers, done. I'm not too sure how well it's come off. I think it's okay. I would love to hear your thoughts, and more importantly, I would love to see your suggestions, your own versions, especially people who write Romantasy often. I think that will be very interesting to see how you take this crappy little story, 180 words it is, and make it something that people enjoy. And I don't think people are going to enjoy this very much, but it's come from this. It's a fun little writing exercise. 500 words probably with the analysis. I mean, it takes about an hour and 15, 20 minutes. So I don't think it takes long. You can get really good story ideas out of it, and obviously you're sharpening your editing skills, and that for me is where the real writing is done. So the better you are editing and making things the best they can be, you're going to produce better stories as a result. So thank you again for listening to Fixing Bad Writing. Sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and do get involved. This is a shared writing challenge, don't forget. If you don't feel comfortable sharing in the comments on the video, then you can join our Discord community. It's open to everybody. It's free to join. All you need to do is click the link, join the mailing list. You'll get an invitation and your first email, and you can come over Discord, say hello, meet lots of like-minded people, and obviously get feedback on your stories, which helps us all get better. So yeah, thank you very much again. Share your Romantasy stories, and I'll see you next time.